How does a mixed economy combine the features of both planned and market economies? Why is India considered a mixed economy? A mixed economy combines elements of both market and planned systems by allowing the private sector and the government to coexist and compete within the market. How a mixed economy combines features. The system integrates the following characteristics from both models. From market economies, it incorporates private ownership of resources and businesses, allowing for competition, innovation, and profit making. Decisions on what and how to produce are often driven by the forces of demand and supply. From planned economies, it retains a significant role for the government and public sector. The government acts as a regulator to ensure fair competition, consumer protection, and transparency. It also directly manages welfare programs and provides public goods such as roads, street lights, and basic education that are accessible to everyone regardless of income. Why is India considered a mixed economy? India is a prominent example of a mixed economy because of its unique economic evolution and the balanced roles of its public and private sectors. Evolution of the system. Following independence, India initially adopted a state-led approach similar to a planned economy, where the government heavily regulated production through licenses and dominated key sectors like banking and transport. The 1991 reforms. In response to economic difficulties, in 1991, India introduced major reforms that reduced regulations and encouraged private enterprise. This shifted the country towards a more market-oriented system while maintaining the government's essential role. Current structure. Today, India's economy is defined by the coexistence of large public sector companies and private players. While private businesses drive growth and innovation, the government continued to play a vital role in resource allocation, regulation, and the provision of social welfare to improve the general well-being of society. Explain the role of economists in society. How do data, surveys, and economic analysis help governments, businesses, and individuals make better decisions? Economists play a vital role in society by studying how individuals, enterprises, and governments can best allocate limited resources to satisfy unlimited wants. Their work involves analyzing available alternatives, calculating opportunity costs, and evaluating potential outcomes to help various economic entities make informed decisions. The role and scope of economists. Economists use their expertise across several domains to guide the well-being of society. Policy making. They guide governments on critical issues such as taxation and welfare spending. Finance. They provide advice to investors on where to best allocate capital to manage risks and capitalize on opportunities. Business consulting. They assist firms in planning for growth and improving operational efficiency. Research and education. They study long-term economic trends and teach others how to understand complex economic systems. How data, surveys, and analysis drive better decisions. The source material emphasizes that good economic decisions rely on data and analysis rather than guesswork. Here is how these tools assist different groups. Governments. Governments use systematic data collection such as surveys and reports like the Economic Survey of India to plan for the nation's future. This data helps policymakers review the performance of various sectors like agriculture, industry, and health. Create a blueprint for the union budget to decide how tax revenue should be spent on infrastructure and welfare programs. Identify future challenges and opportunities for national growth. Businesses or enterprises. Enterprises rely on market analysis and data to solve the three key economic questions: what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. Market trends. Businesses study consumer preferences and demand to avoid wasting resources on products that will not sell. Production techniques. Analysis of the relative costs of labor and capital helps firms decide whether to use labor intensive or automated, that is capital intensive methods. Innovation. Data on new technologies allows businesses to plan for future growth and remain competitive. Individuals and families. Economic analysis helps households management by understanding economic principles and data. Families can better allocate their income between essential items, that is needs, and non-essential items, that is wants and savings. Citizens can use government reports to understand how the economy is performing and how potential policy changes might affect their personal finances. Individuals can evaluate the opportunity cost of their daily choices, such as whether to spend money now or save for the future goal. Are resources considered scarce? Explain how scarcity leads to economic choices and affects consumers, producers, and governments. Resources are considered scarce because both natural resources like water and coal and human-made resources like capital and technology are limited in quantity. This limitation is contrasted with human wants, which are unlimited and constantly changing. Furthermore, resources are scarce because they have alternative uses. For instance, a single resource like steel can be used to manufacture medical equipment, refrigerators, or aircrafts, but it cannot be used for all three of them at the same time. This fundamental mismatch between finite resources and infinite wants creates scarcity, which directly necessitates economic choices. Because we cannot have everything we want, we must decide how to allocate resources in the most efficient way to improve quality of life. Every choice made involves a trade-off, leading to an opportunity cost, which is the value of the next best alternative that is sacrificed. Scarcity affects different economic entities in the following ways. Consumers. Individuals must choose how to spend limited income or time. They must prioritize between needs, essentials like food and shelter, and wants, luxuries like vacations or gadgets. For example, a student might have to choose between buying a notebook now or saving for a tennis racket later. Producers or enterprises. Scarcity forces businesses to answer the three key questions: what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. A farmer must decide which crop to grow based on limited land and water, while a manufacturer must choose between labor-intensive or capital-intensive methods based on the relative cost and availability of workers versus machinery. Governments. Nations face scarcity when deciding how to allocate tax revenue and public funds. Policymakers must make difficult decisions such as whether to spend more on highways or hospitals, or whether to prioritize defense and space exploration over healthcare and education. Governments use data and economic surveys to plan these expenditures and manage the country's growth through different economic systems. Discuss the economic reforms introduced in India after 1991. How did these reforms change India's economic system and promote economic growth? The economic reforms introduced in India after 1991 represents a significant turning point, transitioning the nation from a state-led restrictive system towards a more dynamic mixed economy. The need for reform. In the decades following independence, India followed a state-led approach similar to a planned economy. During this period, the government exercised heavy control over industries, allocated resources, and strictly regulated production through a system of licenses and permits. Key sectors, including banking, transport, and heavy industries, were almost entirely dominated by the public sector. However, by 1991, this model led to serious economic difficulties, necessitating a change in strategy. Key changes to the economic system. The 1991 reforms fundamentally altered how India's economy functioned by introducing several critical changes. Deregulation. The government reduced excessive regulation, making it easier for businesses to operate without constant state oversight, encouraging private enterprises. The reforms opened doors for private individuals and companies to own and manage resources that were previously government controlled. Global integration. India opened its doors to global trade and investment, allowing for a greater flow of international capital and technology. Market orientation. the system shifted towards a more market-oriented model where the focus of demand and supply play a larger role in determining what is produced and at what price. Promoting economic growth. These reforms promoted growth by addressing the inefficiencies of the previous system. Increased competition. By reducing strict permits and encouraging private players, the reforms increased competition. In a market-oriented system, competition encourages producers to offer better quality and lower prices while driving motivation. Increased competition. By reducing strict permits and encouraging private players, the reforms increased competition. In a market-oriented system, competition encourages producers to offer better quality and lower prices while driving innovation. Resource efficiency. The shift allowed for better resource allocation. Instead of following rigid government targets, enterprises could study market trends and data to better serve customers and maximize profits. Balanced coexistence. Post 1991, India became a prominent example of a mixed economy. In this system, profit-making businesses and innovation from the private sector coexist with government-managed welfare programs and public goods like roads and education. This balance ensures that while private enterprise drives growth, the government still regulates private players to ensure fair competition, consumer protection, and transparency. By gradually shifting towards this market-oriented mixed system, India was able to leverage the efficiency of the private sector while maintaining the government's essential role in promoting social well-being and managing long-term development.